This is part of my ongoing Alphabet Adventure series. I have gessoed on my page. Don't worry about the fact that there's all sorts of colours underneath. That's because, well, I use that wonderful trick that we've got up our sleeves. Gesso over it and start again. So gesso is my first coat. Then I'm going to put down a series of acrylic paints. I'm going to work sort of from lightish through to dark, but I'm going to let each layer dry in between. I really like transparent colours, but it is very easy to make any acrylic transparent simply by adding either a matte medium or a gel medium, and in that way you are cutting down on the amount of pigment. Wait till the layer is pretty much dry. It can be a little bit tacky, that's fine. And then the next layer is this glorious Quinacridone Violet, another transparent colour. And this time I'm going to lift off some of that colour with a rag. It's a very hot day here, so it's drying almost as soon as I put it on. Now, my next colour, I'm going to cover, say, 80% of the page. I also like to use my fingers just to sort of smooth it around, so I'm not this is tendency to paint up and down in just straight lines, so I just smooth that sort of around and off with my fingers so that it doesn't sort of look like I've just gone up and down with the brush. The next layer is Cobalt blue, and same thing, I'm going to cover up most of the page, leaving some areas. Dioxazine purple. And lastly, Paynes grey, which is a very sort of a dark blue grey. Oh, it's a bit too much. Oops. Okay, so I've added this great big splodge of paint right there that I don't like. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of matte medium and hopefully before it dries too much, just see if I can just spread that out a bit. I'm going to let that dry thoroughly, at least overnight now. This is craft memory foam, and the wonderful part about it is if you draw into it with a ballpoint pen, so just an ordinary biro, it will actually hold that image. So with the biro then, I'm going to, so I've cut out my shape of my stamp, and then with the biro I'm just going to push in and follow that same shape around. It's a bit, okay, let's see, so push right in so that it scores into the foam. So then I just stick that with a piece of double-sided sticky tape onto some sort of piece of plastic, a margarine lid. So just by putting it onto the plastic, mounting it onto the plastic with a bit of double-sided tape, just gives you something to hold on to. So these are some, and see how it stays in. These are some that I made, I've made previously, and sometimes you do see that one looks like I might need to rescore those lines before I use it again, but that one, the lines are still very deep, they've held in. Now on my palette, the blue is just what I used from the previous video. Sort of spread the paint out a bit so it's not going to all go not bumpy. And then you have your stamp. This is just to give me a bit of a guide. Now this is another homemade stamp using, if I can get that into the picture, it's just a takeaway foam container, hamburger container. It's exactly the same as the memory foam. It make indentations with the ballpoint pen. So white acrylic paint, and I'm just going to add a drop of turquoise acrylic ink. Because they're both acrylics, they will mix harmoniously. That will show up quite nicely on my dark background. What I've got then is I've got several layers, half a dozen layers of acrylic paint. Now using alcohol, so this is just alcohol that you buy in the first aid aisle. I went through a phase of making alcohol inks, so the fact that this is a bit coloured doesn't matter. And then using a rag I can just start in on this. And see how it's already starting to lift. Work in a well ventilated area with this. So if you put the alcohol on and just let it sit for a little while, and then when you come back to it you'll find it will have softened the surface layers of paint. You can also use for small areas just alcohol wipes that you can buy by the 400 or 500 from the first aid aisle of the pharmacy. Small areas, dip something like a cotton bud into the alcohol. Now because I've got an uneven surface, because I always glue collage papers down first on my background, it's coming up really lovely and weathered. So rub back to different sort of stages. Don't rub everything back to the same level, or it defeats the purpose of putting the all the different layers on. So I think, oh, I wonder if that could I, if I put white around that. So I'll get something that sort of start, because the beauty about coloured pencil is you can erase it off most things. So if you decide, oh gee, that's not working, I don't want to do that, I can just get an eraser and just erase it off, usually, pretty much anyway. So I've decided I like that idea, so I'm going to take the Sharpie paint pen and go around it. while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about where I'm going to put my key. K for key. Because I was going to just sew it in the middle of my heart. Not sure, it doesn't sort of show up. You know what? I'm really not liking those hearts. This is a permanent black pen. The main thing with pens to remember, of course, is make sure your surface is really dry. Many a pen has been ruined writing into wet paint, so just, I know it's hard, but try to be a little more patient. That's still annoying me. Obviously white. I chose white because I thought it would show up really nicely, but not liking it very much there. It's popping off the page and drawing the attention. See, what I've actually done composition wise is I've now got these two images virtually competing with each other, so it's just not working. You don't know where to look, so I was just stamping randomly on the page, but this and this isn't working. So I like this much better than this, so I could just paint over it with some dark paint, some Paynes grey. Well, I think I might do that. So I've had a bit of a, I guess, change of heart about this, and I don't like this blank area now that I've got at the bottom. I like this up here and this, but I don't sort of like this. So what I might do is I might actually bring my heart further down so it becomes more of a heart-shaped heart, if that makes sense.